Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com with another lesson in C#. So today we're going to be talking about arrays. Now, what's arrays? Arrays are just a collection of information. Every programming language generally has some sort of array structure because, one piece of information in one variable is useful, but sometimes you need to keep track of a lot of data, whether they're names, a list of names, a list of prices, all sorts of different things. So we need lists. So a couple things I want to point out along the way. As you notice here at the top here, it says using. There's different libraries in the standard library, and also you can import custom-made libraries. But basically, generally, what this is saying we're going to use these parts of the standard library. So when you read tutorials online, make sure that if you're having trouble doing the tutorials, like maybe some of the functions and methods you see in the tutorial just don't seem to work for you, make sure that you're importing or you're bringing in the same libraries that they are. Okay, the reason I point that out is because technically I'm going to be using this particular library in order to import some of the array methods we're going to be talking about in this video. So that way, as you go to learn more, it's just one more vector for troubleshooting. But an array. So let's take a look at our first array. So an array is, again, just a collection of information. So let's read the syntax here. So what I'm doing is I'm declaring that this is an integer variable, but I have to specifically declare that it's an integer array. And that's what these squirrely brackets say. They say, hey, this is going to be an array that holds integers. The name of this variable is first array. This variable equals a new array, again, of type integer. Now, usually you would have to specify the size of the array. So is this going to be an array for 5 items, 6 items, 3 items? You would have to put that number there. That's if you don't decide to give it the information right away. If you already know what numbers are going to be in the array, you could just say that. So here, I'm putting these numbers in that array so that it knows it's going to be an array of 3 spaces. Now, the way arrays work, that technically this one, the first spot, equals index 0. So it's 0, 1, 2. So on the next line, I'm actually going to print a piece of information from the array. So first array, square brackets 2. So I'm printing the information that's at index 2 in the array, which is 3, because again, index 2 really means 3. And this is the same in pretty much all programming languages. That 0 is 1, 1 is 2, and 2 is 3. So always keep that in mind. So that's just your standard array, and you can, and just keep in mind that again, it's limited in size. Okay, so you can't just put as much stuff as you want in there. I declared it with 3 items, so it'll always be a 3-item array. If I would suddenly need to add a 4th item, then I would need to create a new array, copy over the first 3 values, and make room for the 4th value. There are methods, there are libraries to help you with that. Okay, usually in most languages, and I'm sure in C# as well, there's some sort of map function. So you can kind of generate a new array from the data you already have. Cool. But there's also multi-dimensional arrays. So imagine like a table in a database where there's not just multiple columns, multiple entries, but there's also multiple rows. Okay, so it's more square. And the cool thing is that this can have as many dimensions as you want. So we're used to like tables where there's like a up and down and left and right. But here you can actually have as many dimensions, but it gets kind of hard to think about once you start getting past 2 dimensions. So, if you find a situation where you need 3, 4, 5 dimensions, you can do it, but it gets hard to manage. Okay, so here to declare a multidimensional array, again, you have to specifically notify the compiler that you're doing so. So that's what this comma inside the brackets means. It means, hey, this is going to be an integer multidimensional array. So this equals a new array. Okay, and then inside the brackets, I'm going to declare how many spaces it's going to have. So in the first dimension, it's going to have 2 spots, and in the second dimension, it's going to have 2 spots. So it's a 2 by 2 array. Okay, so think 2 columns, 2 rows. So think of this as sort of the first column, row 1, row 2. Second column, row 2, row 1, row 2. Okay, so when I write this, okay, console.writeLine, multidimensional array, I'm printing the array, but I'm specifically printing whatever information is in index 1, 1, meaning the first index, which technically would be this array, would be in the first index. Well, not the first index. Technically, 1 is 2. So technically, I'm actually referring to this array. And then I'm referring to in this, and then in the next dimension, I'm referring to whatever is in the 1 spot, which would be the second spot. So I'm referring to this piece of information over here, which is why that's what's printed right there. Okay, so that's what this code does. Cool. Okay, so now there are some functions you can use in C# that'll allow you to work with arrays much better, especially for like when you're doing like loops and you want to make sure you only loop over an array the number of times that there actually is information in the array. Being able to get the array's length is very useful. Okay, so in this case, all you have to do is put the name of the array, dot length, capital letters, okay, some syntax, case sensitive. Okay, so then here we see that this array has a length of 4, meaning it can have 4 items in it, which makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 by 2. Well, this array, first array, is 3 items, which we declared right there at the beginning, 3 items. So that's what these 2 numbers here mean. It's the length of the arrays. Then we have rank. Rank really just tells you how many dimensions there are to the array. So in the multidimensional array, we have 2 dimensions. And in the first array, we have 1 dimension. Okay. Okay, max and minimum tells you what's the biggest value, smallest value in the array. So in the first array, the biggest value is 3. So when I use the maximum function on that array, it brings me back 3. And then the minimum is 1. So that's pretty straightforward. Minimum and maximum. And then sum adds up all the values of the array. Okay, so the value of all these values is 6. Cool, and that's just scratching the tip of the iceberg. Okay, so I highly recommend Googling and looking up C# array methods. You'll find a cornucopia of things. Every language generally has a cornucopia of things that you can do with arrays, because a lot of what you end up doing is with arrays. I mean, you use arrays to break down words. So you can change like capitalization. You use arrays to crunch lots of numbers for iteration, meaning using for loops to alter lots of data. Arrays are really, really useful for being able to work with large amounts of information. So, take a look at some of the other methods, open up a REPL, try some of them out, practice with it. I'll see you guys in the next video. This is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com with C# arrays.